Hello and welcome to another video. It's an absolutely beautiful day and I'm out here in the woods with my 3x3 tarp and some cordage, and today's video is going to be all about showing you guys a couple of different configurations that you guys could do with your 3x3 tarp, either if you're out for the day, if you're camping overnight, or if you're on a multi-day trip. So stick with me and I'll show you how to do that. Now, we are in a public place, so you might hear vehicles, you might hear other people's voices. It's also a little bit windy. The wind is sort of changing direction, so you might get a little bit of audio disruption. But if you don't mind that, then stick with me because I think you're going to really enjoy the video. Now, in this video, I'm going to assume you already know how to set up a ridgeline. And if you don't know how to set up a ridgeline, then I will leave a link in the description below to the video that I did before this one, which talks about knots, setting up a ridgeline and using different types of knots to set up a tarp or a camp in general. So if you don't know how to set up a ridgeline, then make sure that you click the link in the description below and check out that video first, because then what I'm about to do here will make a lot more sense. Right, so the first configuration I'm going to show you is a simple lean-to. So let's get a ridgeline set up as the first step. It is adjustable. So once your ridgeline is up, the next thing you're going to have to do is create a couple of paracord loops, because we're going to make some press-up loops on our ridgeline so that we can slide our tarp about and adjust it really well and nice and simply. I do go over how to make press-up loops in my video that is in the description below. So if you don't know how to do this, like I've said already, check out that video and you can get a super detailed tutorial on how to do this. So once you have your ridgeline set up and you have your press-up loops attached, you're going to need a couple of sticks and your tarp. Now, the number of press-up loops that you add to your ridgeline will depend on how many tie-out points you have on your tarp. So I have 3 tie-out points on each side, so I've added 3 loops to my tarp. And I will just show you how to connect the tarp to the ridgeline. To connect the tarp to your ridgeline, all you're going to do is take the entry point of the press-up loop and you're going to thread that actually through tab or eyelet on your tarp. It doesn't matter whether you have tabs or eyelets, this method works for both. And then you're going to take your stick and push it through that open loop there. And what will happen is your tarp will be able to slide up and down the ridgeline like this, no bother at all. But then if there's any tension actually applied perpendicular to the ridgeline, it won't slip. To create our first configuration, which is the lean-to, all you're going to do once you've connected up one side of your tarp to the ridgeline is spread your tarp out as far as it will go so that it's nice and flat against the ridgeline, and then you'll take the end that's not connected to anything and you'll bang pull it out like that at roughly a 45-degree angle and peg it down. Now, when you do this, make sure that the back of your tarp or the back of your shelter is actually against the wind, because otherwise you will end up with your tarp filling with wind and blowing about like a sail, and we don't want that. So that's your basic lean-to, completely flat at the back, and there's lots of room here for gear. You can sleep back here, you can pull a seat out if you want, you can have a seat here, you can have a fire pit under here if you want, because there's enough clearance. This is a really, really good shelter, especially if you're just out for the day and you're just hanging out and yeah, you just want something simple and quick to set up. One of the very, very common issues with this setup, as I'm sure you can see, is you can get a lot of sag, especially if the wind keeps changing direction like it is today. But a way that you can remedy that is by creating an additional tie-out point, and you can do this with a pine cone, you can do this with a handful of leaves, just whatever you've got to hand. And what you do is you place your object on the inside, get a grip of it, you put a twist in the material, and then you do what's called a marlin spike hitch. And there is, I do demonstrate that knot in the video in the description below. So you using a marlin spike hitch, you grasp the object and you can create an additional tie-out point that actually allows you to lift the middle of the tarp and create a little bit more headroom. Okay, so this next configuration is a lean-to with an actual ground sheet as well. So what you're going to do for this configuration is you're going to drop the height of your ridge line down to about chest height, and then you're going to remove the pegs from the back of the tarp, and assuming you've got tie-out points in the middle, you're then going to peg the middle of the tarp and then bring the other half underneath and peg it out. And remember, it's still important that the back of your shelter is against the wind, because you don't want the tarp flapping about, and especially if you're going to have a fire in front of your shelter, because if you put your shelter the wrong way around, your campfire smoke is just going to blow in and irritate you all night, and that's never fun. So now you have a lean-to shelter with a ground sheet built in, so you can adjust your angle obviously by lowering your ridge line. So a lower ridge line will lead to sort of shallower angle and give you better protection from the rain and the wind. And if you're going to have a fire with this shelter, I would recommend having your fire pit in front of the shelter, just so that you can still utilise the reflective properties of your tarp, but you can't have it too close because obviously you don't want to set fire to your tarp. So for the first configuration, which was just the standard lean-to, I used 3 tie-out points on my ridge line, and I used 3 pegs for the back of the tarp. For this configuration, it's still 3 tie-out points or prostrate loops on my ridge line, but I've actually used 4 pegs because I've used 2 at the back and 2 at the front to hold the ground sheet in place. But for the next configuration that I'm going to show you, you're going to need 6 pegs, and that is assuming that you've got 3 tie-out points on each side. Always make sure that you have enough pegs, or are able to make enough pegs to accommodate for all the tie-out points that you have in your tarp, just in case you end up using more tie-out points or having to create tie-out points using the button method that I just showed you with the first configuration. These 2 configurations are great, but they're absolutely rubbish if the wind keeps changing direction, or if you've got really heavy persistent downpour of rain. So what do you do in that instance? Well, the third configuration that I'm going to show you is an A-frame. Now when you do this, instead of securing the top to the ridge line along its edge, you're actually going to be securing the tarp along the centre. Now my tarp actually has reinforced stitching along the centre line here, so I know that this tab is actually the middle tab. Some tarps might not have that. It's really important that you check your gear, get used to it, pull it out, have a look at it, just so that you kind of know what's going on. I recommend doing that before trying to set up in any configuration. But yeah, so the next one I'm going to show you is the A-frame. So for that we're going to use 2 prostrate loops and 6 pegs. Quick point for you as well: when you're pegging a tarp out in high wind, don't put the pegs in straight, put them in at an angle. Trust me, because when you put them in straight and the wind gets under the tarp, it just lifts them straight out of the ground and then you lose your whole setup. If you put them in at an angle, there's more soil actually above the peg, so that the weight of the soil will actually help to reduce the chance of the wind pulling your pegs out. But obviously if you've got the skill, you can just make some pegs with little hooks on them, but perhaps that'll be something for another video. This shelter is a lot lower, so there's no flapping about from the wind, which is fantastic. You've got protection on both sides. If you're going to use this configuration, just make sure that your two entrances or open areas are not facing the wind by accident, because you'll just get a gust of wind all the way through and it'll be very uncomfortable, and I can almost guarantee that you won't sleep. So if this is my setup for the night, I would be sleeping in here, and I have my fire pit over here and my little soup. So my actual sort of cooking, socialisation, warming up area is actually away from my tarp and my main shelter. So if you go out and you have a little go at these top configurations and you find yourself in a little bit of a pickle because your tarp isn't strong enough, you have an accident with it, you end up with a hole in it, you lose a tab, something like that, the marlin spike hitch can be used not only to create a button and some extra headroom up here, you can also use it as a makeshift tie-up point for the bottom of your tarp. So I'll just show you that quickly. So in order to do this, you'll need your original peg that you were going to use, your bit of paracord, and a small object. So this can be a pine cone, a stone, a stick, anything like that. And what you're going to do is, see there's the hole? You're going to place your object below the hole, fold it over and give it a twist. And then you're going to take your paracord and do your marlin spike hitch. So that's create a loop, reach in and pull the cord for itself. And that loop that you create then goes over your twist in your object, and then you can pull it tight, and now you can use that to actually tie out your tarp. So I'll create another spike hitch at the other end. So make a little loop, put it through itself, and then I'll place my peg in that hole there. And now I've got another secure tie-out point. So you see there? No problem at all. So there you have it, a couple of configurations that you can do with your tarp, but they all require a ridgeline. And so what are you supposed to do in a situation where you don't have a ridgeline, you don't have enough cordage, the trees are too far apart? What do you do? So this configuration is called the Plow point. I would argue that it's one of the easiest, and it's very, very versatile, because you can do this around a tree, you can do this on a branch above you, you can do this on a little sticky outy bit. You know, you can do this configuration on a pole driven into the ground. It's really, really versatile. But just a word of caution for you, if you have a tarp that has damage on a corner like this one, then be sure to not use that corner for the very, very top connecting point that's going to connect to your upright. And also try not to use this corner for the furthest stakeout point at the back either. And the reason for that is because the actual tarp itself is under a lot of tension in this configuration. So if you have a corner that is weak or compromised and you put that either right at the top or right at the bottom, yeah, you could be in a little bit of a situation in the middle of the night if a gust of wind comes in. And yeah, I don't have to say any more, I'm sure you guys get the idea. So no ridgeline required. You can tie straight around the tree, you can tie around a branch, you can tie around the little sticky outy bit. Doesn't really matter. I'm going to choose the little sticky outy bit here just because I'm quite short and that's as far as I can reach. So once you've got your bit of cord tied to your anchorage point, we're going to create a marlin spike hitch. And instead of just putting a peg or a toggle straight through the loop, we're actually going to pass that loop through our tarp, like that. Put the stick in there and put it tight. So I'll show you guys that again. make your loop up on itself, pull it through, put that through the corner tab or eyelet of your top, stick, pull it tight, and that is going to be the highest point of your top. And this isn't really easily adjustable, so you need to make this tie as high as you can. So I'm talking, you know, like right up here, right close to the anchor point. Now again, it's absolutely essential that the back of this shelter is against the wind, or you'll blow away like a sail. So once you've got your point there all tied up, you're going to find the corresponding tab on the absolute opposite corner. You're going to grab that and you're going to pull it as tight as you can, absolutely in a straight line, absolutely perpendicular to your anchorage. Bang, peg in, and that's basically you. And then you just peg out the two other bits, and that's your shelter. So we'll do that now. Obviously, you have to be careful. It depends on what kind of tree you'll buy. But you can have a little fire here, and it will also be protected from the rain. It's really good in high winds, as you can see. It gives you shelter, sort of 2.5 sides. You can sit in here, and there's plenty of room at the back for you to store your gear and for you to set up a sleep system as well. Another really good thing about this configuration is that because it's not attached to a ridge line, the whole thing can be rotated. So as long as you have your one sort of anchorage point up high enough, you can unpeg all of this and you can spin it round. So see, we're now facing completely opposite direction. Depending on how much headroom you want, how much protection from the elements you want, obviously you can whip that stick out and adjust the height. Obviously the steeper the angle, the more headroom. The shallower the angle, the less headroom, but you'll get sort of more closed in protection from the elements if you drop it down so that it's actually level with your height. So this is a really good configuration for the day as well as overnight. I've spent, you know, multiple nights in a row in configurations like this. I've got plenty of videos of me camping in this configuration for you guys that would like to see. I'll leave a link in the description below. You can also use this configuration to create more sort of semi-permanent shelters as well. So instead of using a sort of ridge line with a bit of cordage, you can actually just use actual pieces of wood, and then you can drape the tarp over that in this configuration and peg it down, and you'll get a sort of semi-permanent shelter. I have done that before as well, so if you'd like to see me do that, then have a little look through my channel. I'm sure you'll be able to find the video. So there you have it, a handful of configurations for you guys to go out and try with your tarps that can be applied to daytime, one-nighters or multi-night trips and different weather conditions as well. It's always good to have lots of different skills under your belt, especially if you're going out solo like I usually do. So make sure that you go out, get your tarp up now that the weather's improving, and give all of these configurations a go. If you like what you see and would like to see more videos from me, be sure to like, subscribe, and leave me a wee comment down below letting me know if you need help with anything. If there's any sort of skill tutorials that you would like to see, then let me know. But that's all we've got time for today, so I'm going to pack up and go home. But thanks again, I hope this was helpful. Get out there and give this a go, and I will see you in the woods. Bye everyone.